Our first speaker this morning is going to be speaking about Beyond the Dashboard, creating a data culture using the impact teams approach. And Johnson Anyona is a registered pharmacist in the Republic of Kenya, working on public health supply chain management of essential medicines and medical supplies. He works at the national and regional levels in providing supply chain technical assistance in forecasting, supply planning, supply chain considerations for new product introduction, and more. Johnson currently leads the implementation of the impact team's approach towards more data-led decision-making for in-supply health. I'm personally really excited to have Johnson joining us and have someone who is a practitioner of something besides data and data viz, who uses data and data viz as part of their work, joining us to share about the role that data visualization plays in how they approach strengthening health systems and ultimately improving and saving lives. And I think that we can't always draw the same kind of dotted line to impact that I know that the in-supply team can. So I'm really excited to welcome Johnson to the stage.
Okay, greetings, Porto. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are tuned in. As introduced, my name is Johnson Anyona. Let me just first start by saying what a great privilege it is to offer this keynote talk at this great Outlier conference. I would have loved to be there in person to also meet some new people and get some conference goodies, but at least I'm happy that I'm able to connect through this digital platform. So as Amanda said, I'm going to touch on one of the themes for this year, focusing on the data culture and data use. And the title of my presentation will be Beyond the Dashboard, Creating a Data Use Culture Using the Impact Team Approach. So there was this contractor who was managing a multi-million-dollar housing project, and the contractor was an impatient man and who was always on edge and wanted to do things quickly and on time. And he would constantly ask his foreman about the progress of how the project was going on. And if things weren't moving fast enough, he would demand that more workers be added to the job. And he had this popular phrase saying, "Put more men on the job, put more men on the job." Now, this contractor had a young daughter who he would often take with him to these construction sites. So one day, as the contractor made a visit with the daughter accompanying him, the daughter watched him and watched the site in awe as the workers hammered away. And then she turned to his father and asked him, Dad, why don't I have a brother or a sister? So the contractor, of course, was caught off guard by this question, and he replied, "You'll have a sibling soon." And without missing a beat, the daughter responded with a perfect solution that she had learned from her father. "Put more men on the job, Dad. Put more men on the job." So this story reminds us that making decisions based on data is crucial for achieving our goals effectively and efficiently. Whether we are managing a big construction site, leading a business, we must ensure that we have the necessary data and use it to make decisions. And the decisions are not just adding more people to the work. And by doing so, we can actually avoid making costly mistakes and ensure that we are on the right path to success. So, as a health supply chain practitioner, I work in a field that optimizes the flow of health commodities from manufacturers to the hands of clients whenever and wherever they need them. Product availability and access is the ultimate purpose of any supply chain, and it's often said in my area of work that where there is no product, there is no program. And this is particularly challenging in low resource settings such as Sub-Saharan Africa, where I live and work. Information is the engine that drives health supply chains. For example, information about product consumption and stock levels must be gathered to ensure that a manager knows how much of a product to procure. Many countries have made investments, significant investments in building and automating health logistics information systems and training their staff at all levels to report to these systems. And this has resulted in increased availability of supplies. However, data availability alone is not enough for health supply chains to perform and to get the critical health commodities into the hands of clients. So in addition to building a robust information system, creating a data culture by empowering and training staff to analyze and use data for decision-making is actually very key to improving health supply chain performance. So what is a data use culture and why is it important in our work? So a data culture simply refers to the practices or the behaviors of a particular group or an organization that support or encourage the use of evidence. This can be in terms of facts, figures, statistics, using this evidence to inform decision-making. Unfortunately, decision makers at all levels of the health system are not using data at all times or in an optimal way to drive planning, performance management, and delivery of services. So the use of timely, high-quality data is essential to strengthen health systems and provide health services efficiently. So in the public health space where I work, there are several forums such as data review meetings where supply chain data is presented. You can see in the picture, this is a good example of a typical data review meeting. And while routine information sharing helps keep stakeholders informed, it must be followed up by actions to address the issues that emerge. And in the absence of a clear action planning structure, such meetings are limited to a show and tell, and they don't really encourage stakeholders to use the data for their decision-making. So at InSupply Health, our approach to instilling a data use culture is called the impact team approach. Impact stands for information mobilized for performance analysis and continuous transformation. Impact teams are made up of people across functions and disciplines in the health systems who meet regularly with the aim of improving supply chain performance. So these people are trained to develop, interpret, and set targets for the key indicators and use action-oriented dashboards. They're also encouraged to follow a structured problem-solving process, and they're empowered to use their data for operational and strategic decisions. So to instill a data culture, the impact team approach requires 4 core components under government leadership and ownership. The first one is the people aspect. So you need motivated team members who offer a mix of skills, and this includes data analysis and interpretation, supply chain management, leadership, as well as the authority to translate the identified solutions into concrete actions. Secondly, you need the data, definitely. So impact teams rely on strong, timely, and visible data systems to generate analyses that are both usable and actionable, as well as relevant. Third, you need structured processes, specifically meeting routinely to critically examine and collectively interpret the supply chain data, to prioritize some of the problems that emerge, to conduct root cause analysis, and to create action plans with solutions to specific problems or local bottlenecks that come up. And fourth, you need technology. And so impact teams use various technological solutions to create user-friendly, actionable dashboards to guide that continuous review and continuous improvement cycle. So with this combination of people, processes, data, and technology, you are able to build a data culture and a practice of data use, which contributes to improved availability of health products. So how do you design an impact team? First, you start by engaging the leadership at the level where you wish to implement to get their buy-in and also emphasize on how the approach is going to impact the metrics that they care about. Leadership is fundamental to the success of the teams and to their sustainability. Next, you hold a design workshop and where the team determines their vision, the goals, their performance targets, and the team composition based on critical competencies that are required, which we'll get to in a minute. Then you train and operationalize the teams, and you do this by building the team's capacity on team effectiveness, interpreting the data, following the structured processes of problem solving and action planning, and planning for reward and recognition of good performance. Lastly, once the impact teams are up and running, you provide technical support to ensure that they mature to be an effective, efficient, and sustainable team. So let's now take a look at some of the mechanics of this impact team approach, starting off by the design and creating of the teams. So impact teams are co-designed with leadership, health management, and service delivery teams and key partners. The design process consists of a workshop to orient the participants on their approach, and after which the participants identify their team composition, establish the targets for their key performance indicators, and then they also establish their meeting cadence, the team norms, including selecting the type of agenda that is best suited for that team. So at this stage, I would just like to pause and ask the audience, what skills do you think members of an impact team should have? What skills do you think the members of an impact team should have? Or any data use team? What skills do you think some of the team members should have? So let's see some of those skills that we are talking about. A well-rounded, effective impact team has the competencies in 7 major areas. That is data analysis and visualization, supply chain skills, problem-solving skills, leadership, resource mobilization, organizational skills, and advocacy skills. At InSupply, we call them role profiles, and we named them as personas in order to make them more actionable and less theoretical. So for example, instead of saying data analysis and visualization skills, we call that persona Data Whiz Diana. And this person, that is the Data Whiz Diana, is the person in the team who understands the indicators and can be able to interpret the data for non-data people. She's also familiar with supply chain data sources and can be able to analyze raw data from spreadsheets and be able to Peter, the problem solver, organizing auto. Those four are considered the core team members, while Lucy Leader, Influencing Irene, and Resource Rita are enabling team members. So the core team members have skills which are needed for the day-to-day data use, actions, and decision-making, and are important for all meetings, whereas the enabling members play a more strategic role and offer support for unlocking the bottlenecks or challenges which are outside the mandate of core members. So to help determine if teams have the knowledge, the skills, and the competencies that are associated with the 7 role profiles, we designed a self-assessment that impact teams use in the implementation workshop to self-assess themselves against the different roles that are required for an effective team. So for each persona, the team discusses and comes to a consensus on the level of skill, knowledge, or competency that exists within the membership, as well as the level of availability or accessibility to the team. And this approach reinforces the idea of overall team capacity, as opposed to the team depending on only 1 or 2 individuals to play these critical roles. And we did this as a pathway to sustainability. As a complement to the role profile assessment, we developed what we call the learning packages, which are focused around each core role profile. So the learning packages are self-directed, online-based modular courses that are designed to build competencies in the improvement of data use for health supply chains. For example, if a team scored low in their self-assessment of, for example, Data with Diana role profile, they can prioritize taking the Data with Diane learning package. In this way, individually or as a team, they can chart their own progress in data use and supply chain management. So far, in 427 individuals across both Kenya and Tanzania, which is our neighboring country, have been able to be certified for the various learning packages, with 56 certificates also issued internally to in-supply staff who also participate in these courses. And that is our way of practicing what we preach. So the course for supply chain SAM has had the highest uptake, with 140 learners certified, followed closely by Organizing Auto with 93 certified, Peter Problem Solver with 87, and Data with Diane with 68 learners certified. So the introduction of the role profile assessment, the learning packages, and other forms of technical support that we've provided impact teams all contribute to strengthening the performance of the teams and reducing their dependency on our technical assistance. And consequently, we have seen improvements in coordination of meetings, the capture of action plans, technical data analysis skills, and better understanding of supply chain management. So the learning packages have had the following benefits and applications. So it is online and free, it is self-paced, it addresses the real needs of impact team members, and it has been able to unearth the hidden potential of members to take lead and organize meetings. And some of the applications that the learning packages we've seen realize are problem-solving challenges which emerge from the data meetings, and improving supply chain performance. We've seen a reduction in the dependency of meetings to happen as scheduled to just one person. And the learnings can actually be applied over a range of aspects and not just health supply chain. As a matter of fact, one member reported that it has helped her in prioritizing activities that are not impact team related, as well as personal day-to-day activities. So these are just a few testimonials that some of the impact team participants who've taken up the learning packages have shared with us. Starting off with the medical officer in charge in a sub-county in Siaya, who said that it has brought teamwork on board through the learning packages as the sub-county health management team, and they have built our capacity. Even the theoretical part of it has really helped. And so we have seen the impact it has had on the team in terms of managerial skills. Another impact team member called Dr. Lasoi, who is the sub-county pharmacist of Trans Nzoia, said that I am one happy impact team member. Having gone through supply chain and organizational modules, that is in the learning packages, there are a wonderful set of training packages. So impact teams were designed to be able to use data from any system. So the approach is software and system agnostic. We simplified data access, visualization, and analysis by developing an indicator tracking tool, or what we abbreviate as ITT. The ITT is an automated, user-friendly, free dashboard that is housed in a web-based version of Power BI that is easily accessible to all impact team members. It pulls data from the health information systems and presents analytics and visuals on periodic and aggregated supply chain data. Currently, the ITT includes key supply chain and program indicators for all vaccines, family planning, malaria, and nutrition commodities that the impact team members manage. The visualized key performance indicators include those for which the impact teams have set performance targets, and therefore it helps them track or monitor their performance against their targets. The indicator tracking tool is housed in what we call the impact team portal, which is what you're looking at on the screen. And this is a one-stop hub that houses all the tools and resources that impact teams require. So in there is a ITT, the learning packages are all there, and all the resources that the team members need in their meetings. It takes a wise man to learn from their mistakes, but an even wiser man to learn from others. I think that is a famous quote. And so to foster peer-to-peer learning, and also to identify and understand the differences in the implementation and success of the different impact teams, we conducted what we call cross-learning workshops that bring together different impact teams. So for example, what you're seeing on the screen is the cross-learning workshop for Nairobi. So Nairobi has 10 sub-counties and meaning 10 sub-county impact teams, which are supported by the county impact team. And in these cross-learning forums, the different impact teams are able to share their experiences and the best practices of the impact team implementation and how to sustain the impact team approach. The next activity is what we call reward and recognition. So people work for money, but go the extra mile for recognition, praise, and rewards. So with input from impact teams, we developed a reward and recognition criteria for the impact teams with the aim of motivating the team members to continue to practice the impact team processes consistently and to push on actions to see improved performance. So the reward and recognition criteria focused on impact team processes, such as consistent meeting attendance and with sufficient quorum, as well as documentation of the action plans and the impact team minutes. Another criteria we developed was the technical competencies and performance improvement. And these are some of the indicators that they are tracking, such as reporting rates and stockout rates. The third criteria was the uptake of the learning packages. So we also were able to evaluate which teams had the highest uptake of the learning packages. And a fourth criteria was the institutionalization of the impact teams. So which impact teams were able to really anchor their approach in their existing structures so that they are self-sufficient. So we defined the criteria for identifying the teams to be recognized under those categories, their data sources and the frequency that the recognition is to be done, as well as the actual awards to be provided to the winners. And therefore we use the cross-learning workshops to engage the impact teams on the criteria and also gather their feedback to improve these criteria. For example, what you're seeing on the screen is one of the recognition ceremonies, and one of the criteria we used was the uptake of the learning packages, where recognition was done at county, sub-county, and individual level. So counties, sub-counties, and individuals who had the highest uptake of the learning packages were rewarded. As a result of planning and implementing reward and recognition, teams have actually continued meeting consistently and effectively, and owning the process, and as well as implementing their action items. Sustainability. At InSupply, we believe that solutions such as impact teams applied at every level of the supply chain outlive the specific projects or funding streams. For impact teams, some strategies for sustainability that we've deployed include, through the learning packages that we've spoken about, this has allowed healthcare workers to continue their professional development while learning the applicable skills. By putting people's capacity and processes at the center of our solution, InSupply has had more sustainable results and less dependency on technical support. 2 is integration. And InSupply ensured that the impact team meetings were integrated within existing structures, such as commodity security working groups, data review meetings, and health management team meetings. A third approach for sustainability was what we call human-centered design. And by using this approach called human-centered design, we were able to contextualize the solutions, helped to gain the insights into the actual needs, desires, and the barriers to using this approach. And therefore, by customizing our approach to meet the people's needs, we increased uptake of the impact team approach. For example, when we were developing the indicator tracking tool that I just showed earlier, we got feedback from the impact team members on which programs they wanted us to include on the dashboard, which indicators they wanted to track and are of interest to them. Now, I am pleased to share some results that we have yielded as a result of implementing the impact team approach in our geographies. So to establish the effect of the impact team approach, we did an evaluation So to ensure that we are comparing apples with apples, we used a matching criterion that paired counties that had similar metrics in population, women of reproductive age, socioeconomic livelihood, geographical characteristics, and religious or cultural factors. So the first result touches on an indicator called reporting rates. So reporting rates measures the percentage of facilities that have completed and submitted their reports as per the defined schedule. And it answers whether the information is actually available and timely to support the decision-making process. And what we realized, or what emerged, is that the impact team counties demonstrated higher on-time reporting rates for family planning across all the years between 2019 and 2021, which we were tracking. And you can see on the visual on the left, that is what we have. So the left visual is the impact team counties and performance in terms of the reporting rates versus the comparison counties, how they also performed. The second indicator what this indicator tracks, it compares whether there are any differences between the recorded ending balance of stocks in the previous month and the beginning balance of stocks in the current month. And it gives us a measure of the quality of the data that they are reporting on. And so we saw that the quality of reporting improved, as you can see in the graph on the left, in the impact team counties, based on this performance of this indicator. So this indicator measures the discrepancy in reporting between ending and beginning balance, and facilities are actually expected to have really no discrepancies between those two. So for example, if it's the end of the month in June, the last day of June is 30th, you expect that on 1st July, you still have the same amount of stocks. There shouldn't be any variance or discrepancy between the two. So if there's any variance, we know that there is a data quality issue. The third indicator that we evaluated is called stocked according to plan. And this indicator measures the proportion of facilities whose current stock status is within the recommended range. So, and what we realize is that amidst the national shortages and pandemic-related challenges that we faced, similar to many other countries across the globe, the impact team counties had a larger percentage of facilities which were adequately stocked than their comparison counties for each year between 2019 and 2021, as you can see on the screen. So I would like to finish off with some quotes from actual impact team members themselves on their experience with the impact team approach. And we have Dr. Hanif Jean, who is the county pharmacist of one of the counties we implemented called Mombasa, which is also by the beach like Porto. And he said that we established the impact teams and we were able to look at our problem and come up with a root cause analysis of what was causing the low reporting rates and also the timeliness. We came up with a roadmap and actionable activities at the county level, and we were able to improve our reporting rates. Another quote is coming from Liakono Radi, who is a sub-county pharmacist from Samburu County, which is a county in the nomadic region of Kenya that is categorized as a hard-to-reach county. And so he said that the sub-county team and the facility health management committees have been capacity built in terms of holding their meetings, interrogating the data. So data use has been enhanced by the higher managers, and decisions that have been made are for sure been based on the data that is readily available. We have another quote from Joyce Maina, who is the reproductive health coordinator for another county called Nyeri, where we've implemented. And she said that we had a gap in supply chain management, especially for family planning commodities in vaccine management, and we formed the team at the county level. And the team started meeting regularly, and even after the training, they were able to streamline the systems. Finally, this quote from a gentleman called Sinclair Omboga, who is the county planning coordinator for Trans Nzoia County. And he said that Impact Team has challenged the sub-county health management team members to move beyond the issue of data collection and towards monitoring and evaluation, as well as anticipating problems before they occur. It has also been able to foster teamwork. Okay, in conclusion, from our experience in implementing the Impact Team approach, we have concluded that the key ingredients for a successful data use team are having a deliberate design, using decision support tools, empowering the team with skills and to follow the structured problem-solving processes. And they do this first by assessing themselves and then taking up the learning packages to fill up those gaps in skills. And then implementing systems for rewarding and recognizing improved performance, and also planning for sustainability of this approach. So if you try all these strategies and you still have not been successful in instilling a data use culture, then and only then can you put more men on the job. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Muito obrigado, amigos. Back to you, Amanda.
Hello, my name is Martinas, and I'm really impressed by the things you're doing there. And I'm interested to know a bit more about those learning packages. So the first question would be the content in those learning packages. Is it created internally, or are you reusing some things that you maybe find on some course websites or somewhere else? And the other question would be, what is the process of updating those learning packages? Because I believe that, well, at least in data visualization field, things are changing quite rapidly. So what is the process of updating them? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Martinas, for your great question. I lost a bit of what you said, but I got the general sense of your question about the learning packages, whether they are created in the process of developing the content and updating them to be relevant. So we do this specifically by getting input from the users. So the users guide us on what skills they feel they have gaps on. And what I talked about is the role profile assessment that we conduct to check which skills the teams are lacking. And then from what we see, the skills that the teams are lacking, we are able to develop content on them. And we also, again, gather input and feedback through the process I talked about called human-centered design, so that we're making sure that the content is tailored to address the skills that and competencies that the team's members lack. In terms of updating to make it be relevant and up to date, we do this periodically. So it's not just a one-off upload. We periodically improve on the material through what we call adaptive learning. Of course, we get, again, feedback input from not just the users, but other stakeholders on some of the topics. Like I mentioned, the learning packages has material on supply chain, on data, on problem-solving skills, on organizational skills. So it's really a collaborative effort, not just internally by ourselves, but involving the users as well as other stakeholders in the space.
And I think, Johnson, one of the other questions I think embedded there was if you're creating bespoke training content or if you're sourcing parts of that content from other external sources or courses online. Can you answer that question?
Okay, yeah, yes. So definitely we are also borrowing from other sources, not just developing our own from scratch. For example, the supply chain field is pretty well established. So there are publications, online resources that we adopt and make it user-friendly. So remember e-learning. E-learning, you have to make the content in a way that the users can be able to follow and not lose interest quickly. So we adopt the content and customize it in a way that the users can actually interact with the material and be able to complete some of the sessions. So yes, to answer your question, we borrow material from best practices across the fields or the different skills that we are building.
Great. I saw some questions over here in the back.
Hi, Johnson. My name is Simran. Thank you so much for your time. I was curious whether you could expand on the development of the indicator tracking tool and what sort of design iterations it went through and what reflections you had throughout the process.
Okay, I think that's a very good question. I don't know whether any of my colleagues on the call would like to chime in, but I'll just start off. I know we have the developers actually who worked on the dashboard also listening in. But actually we started from Excel. That was the initial journey of this dashboard. It was Excel based initially, and we were able to iterate to be able to, from the feedback we were getting, because some people don't really like Excel, some people are turned off by Excel. So the reality is we started off from an Excel workbook with the indicators, and then we were able to move it to the platform called Power BI, where it's currently hosted. And as I mentioned, we have a health information system where the public facilities report all the information. So it's a pool of all the information coming from the health facility. And the challenge with using that information system is that the users, it wasn't really user-friendly to be able to know, okay, if I want to look at this indicator, where do I go about it? So we developed that dashboard on Power BI that I showed that automatically pulls data from this health information system that is built from DHIS2. I'm not sure whether folks are familiar with DHIS2. It's a common health information platform that many countries are using. And therefore it refreshes new data every 24 hours so that the teams are able to get up-to-date information as it becomes available. I don't know whether any of my colleagues would like to chime in on this as well.
I don't know, do we have them on the line, or are they joining us in the virtual platform maybe where they can type answers?
Yeah, they can also share on the chat.
Perfect. I think it's an interesting question around that kind of how that journey of evolution goes from Excel over to Power BI, and the idea that you can learn from those early iterations and find ways to improve. Next question here in the back on this side.
Hi, Johnson. James here. Thanks very much for the talk. Interested in the step maybe before the dashboarding Excel, the data pipelines that you've got in place, and how you build confidence in the data that's coming from the various systems that you've got, and whether that's part of impact as well, whether the stuff that you were talking about around the people that use the data, if there's a strand of impact that also looks at the data validity and accuracy coming through various different systems.
Okay, thank you for your question, James. So when we developed the dashboard, And it's great that you're asking this question because this actually happened. Because initially, the health workers who are so used to DHIS2 were initially skeptical. This is not really my data. Are you sure? So they would go back and forth comparing. This system is showing this percent reporting rate. They would go back and check, is this really true in terms of the data that the health facilities reported? So once they were able to actually confirm that the system is simply pulling the data from the government's health information system and visualizing it in a way that can be user-friendly for the users, they were able to build that confidence. And of course, we also involved them in terms of, so what you're seeing currently is not where we began. So it's been slowly and steadily improving based on some of the suggestions and inputs that we've been able to get from the team members. In terms of your question on validity of the data, so this has also been a big challenge that some of the teams have been facing in terms of the data quality being reported from the source, and the source I mean the facilities that are submitting these reports. And that is why we deliberately had to put in one indicator that actually tracks the quality of the reports. The one I mentioned called comparing the stock balances from the previous month and the new month. So that is an immediate flag where whenever you see any discrepancy, that this data is not really credible. And from the whole point is that once you see this, the impact team can now be able to make decisions on what to do. Do they need to communicate to the facilities to confirm the report, to rework on it before they upload the actual data? So that by itself was a data quality measure that the impact teams are using in their day-to-day.
Great. Other questions from in the room or from online? I'm gonna pause on the drinking water, right? Hi, Johnson. Sorry, we had a pause on your drinking water for a moment. So as we go ahead and think, Johnson, about what this looks like and the impacts on kind of our field around data visualization design, and thinking about this extension into data literacy, can you speak to the ways in which you've worked with the teams who are using these dashboards to go ahead and help train them or help them learn how to use these dashboards and more specifically understand the data?
Great question. Sorry, my connection was a bit unstable. I hope you can hear me fine now, Amanda.
You're good. Yep. You're back.
Great. So the journey of getting that understanding, appetite for using this data starts at the design workshop. And this is the first workshop where we interact with the team members. So we have elaborate sessions explaining and training the team on not just the dashboard itself, but even understanding the indicators. So, for example, what does reporting rates mean? How do you calculate reporting rate? What do you need to do if they are low? What are some of the decisions you need to do or to take when it's low or when it's high, etc. And then on the dashboard itself, we also orient them on the navigation, how to drill down, to download whatever data you are interested in, to be able to check the performance, whether you want the current month, previous month, etc. So it begins at that design workshop. Then after they've been trained at that initial workshop, now when they are implementing the approach, we offer them technical support. So some of the in-supply staff actually join the impact team meetings so that they can be able to troubleshoot or guide the team in terms of the discussions and utility of the dashboard. The other thing which we talked about is the learning packages. So the data whiz course that I mentioned specifically has content to be able to upskill the team members on how to interpret, how to create, develop, interpret the visuals that are useful for the impact teams.
So as we go ahead and think about what those meetings look like, I think you've mentioned and talked about the tool and that actually using the data is more than just the tool. Thinking about that, what actually happens at an impact team meeting when everyone gets together?
Great, and I wish I could pull up the presentation again so that as I explain, you can follow. So let me just confirm if you can see my presentation.
Mm-hmm. It's back.
Yes. So there was this slide here. This, what you're seeing on the right. So this is actually what happens during an impact team meeting. So, and even before an impact team meeting, there's certain things that happen before, and then now the during and after. So let me start with the before. So the person who's been identified to take up the organizing role is responsible for developing the agenda beforehand, setting the date, communicating the agenda with the team, and then the person who is responsible for the data is responsible for preparing a summary presentation of the current performance and sharing it out with the team members so that they can review it beforehand. And then now when they come to the actual meeting, and these meetings typically last an hour or 2 hours maximum, depending on the number of programs the team agrees to focus on. They start by reviewing the previous action item. So you can see in the previous meeting, they develop an action item. So the first thing is keeping tabs of, okay, last meeting we had decided we do A, B, C, and D to be able to solve this problem. Where are we with these actions that we agreed on? So it's like a status update, checking on what actions have been followed through, which ones are still pending, and what we need to do. So once you review the previous action, they now look at the current performance, where now the ITT comes in, or the summary presentation in form of a placemat can be used to take the team through the latest performance that the team has. So they look at the data, analyze it, and then from that presentation, they're able to pick out all the problems that the team, that are emerging from the data. And this could be quite a lot. So they go through a prioritization exercise and say, okay, out of all the 6 problems we've identified this current month, which top 3 or top 4 do you want to prioritize to work on right now? So that is the prioritization stage. And once they've agreed on which problems to prioritize, they do what we call a root cause analysis. So they establish what really is causing high stockout rates, for example, or stock shortages of a commodity in facility X. So different people give their input, and they are able to drill down to the actual problem, and then they propose practical solutions or actions, which is this next step, that can address the identified problems, and then they document it into an action plan, and the cycle continues in subsequent impact team meetings.
I think the feedback loop and the accountability is something that is so important to think about in terms of how data gets used, that we don't walk out of a room with a plan and then no way of following up. And I think it's wonderful
Absolutely.
to have had a chance to hear about the ways in which you'd be able to see some of the impact of this approach through things like stockout rates, wastage rates, on-time reporting. And I know for a lot of us, connecting the dots between kind of the impact of our work and how we measure that is a big challenge. So for me, this has been really great to hear more about the approach here. Is there any other questions from the audience before we maybe take a pause? All right. Well, Johnson, it has been just a pleasure. If we can bring you up big on screen one more time. Johnson, thank you so much.